So you want to get into 3D printing, but want to know what's involved before you jump in. Well, in this video, I'm going to cover the 5 things you need to get started. 3D printing can be a bit daunting, so this video hopefully will arm you with all of the things you need to know to get stuck in. Firstly, and most obviously, you're going to need a 3D printer. Now there are many on the market, ranging from ones that take a liquid to ones that take a filament-based material on a roll. Which 3D printer is right for you is a difficult question to answer because one size doesn't fit all. Some machines can print quicker than others, while others can print larger items. So there is a trade-off for whichever attribute you value the most. The most common 3D printers you're going to see are the filament-based machines. These machines take a spaghetti-like plastic filament on a reel and push them through the machine, melting them and squirting them onto a build plate, building up a model layer by layer until such time as you have a fully formed 3D object. Resin-based printers, however, use a liquid polymer, which is then exposed to UV light to solidify the layer. This process is repeated over and over again to create the layers of the object until it's fully formed. For the remainder of this video, we're going to focus on filament-based machines, as they are the most common and most user-friendly to use. Number 2 on the list of the things that you need is a 3D object, the thing that you actually want to print. Now there are many ways of obtaining a 3D model. For most users starting out, you're going to use a service like Thingiverse or Printables. These are libraries of 3D models that other users have made and uploaded. You can freely download them and use them in your own projects. But a word of warning, pay close attention to the permissions that the user uploading the file to the service has given that file. Some may need attribution and some may not be suitable for commercial purposes. There are plenty of users that have been caught out selling someone else's files without permission on online shopping stores. So don't get caught into that trap. Alternatively, you could create your own 3D models using a CAD application. The CAD application needs to be able to export these files in either an STL or 3MF file format, which brings us on to the third item that you need to get going in 3D printing, a slicer. A slicer is a piece of software that takes your 3D model and turns it into language that your 3D printer can understand. Essentially, it breaks it down into slices of the model. It then calculates the movements that the printer needs to make in order to replicate that slice. It repeats this process until it reaches the top of the model. Slicers are available in many flavors, some in the free format and some that you pay for. The 3 most common slicers that I've seen is Cura from Ultimaker, the Slick 3R or Slicer open source software, or the Prusa Slicer from Prusa Printers, which is a fork and customization of the open source slicer platform. Personally, I use the Prusa Slicer variety. It meets all of my needs and produces excellent quality. Number 4 on the list of items that you need is filament. Filament comes in a variety of different reel sizes and material types. When you're first starting out with 3D printing, most users reach for the PLA variety of filaments. The reason for this is PLA is user-friendly for a beginner. It's easy to print and it gives excellent results. There is, however, a drawback with PLA. That is that the temperature resistance of the resulting model you make can be a little bit on the weak side. For example, things printed in PLA, if left in a sunny car, can actually distort its shape and melt. If you take a 3D cup, for example, and pour boiling water into it, the cup will deform and lose its shape. Another problem with PLA is it's difficult to finish. A natural attribute of 3D printing is that you will see layer lines. Now these can be lessened the smaller your layer height, however, layer lines are always present, like grain in wood. Most things, once they've been 3D printed, either need to be sanded or go through some sort of finishing process to smooth those layer lines out. PLA, however, can be a little bit difficult to sand, as the heat generated by the friction of sanding can actually distort the model, so care must be taken. If sanding is not the route you're going to go, you'll need to use some sort of smoothing agent that you would paint or pour onto the model, which will set and solidify, smoothing out those options. Smooth On XTC 3D is an example of one of these products. Which brings us on to our 5th and final category of items that you'll need to get into 3D printing, and that is tools. There are some tools which are considered necessary and others are nice to have. In the necessary camp, flush cutters. Flush cutters are invaluable for removing support material that you may have used in a 3D print and cutting away unwanted elements of a model. The next thing you're going to need is a scraper tool. A scraper tool is used to remove a print from the bed of your 3D printer. However, word of caution, make sure you keep your hands behind the tool. It's very common to actually slip and slice whatever is in front of it, and that could be your hands. Tools that are nice to have are things like deburring tools. A deburring tool can be used to remove the brim that you might have included in a print, but also can help with removing things known as elephant's foot, which is where the model gets squished a little bit at the very contact point of the 3D print and the bed, and is a common attribute that you may have to deal with. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, the topic of 3D printers can be quite deep and diverse because one size doesn't fit all. So why not click the card up above to see my 3D printer guide? This will walk you through the process of trying to figure out which machine is going to be right for you. Comment below if you'd like me to do a video on 3D printer filaments and how you would select them for one job versus another. If you want to know more, why not check out one of these videos here?